It is the last week of Escape the Readathon, and I am finally back in the mood to do some filming and editing and all the things that entails. This is the book that I'm starting off this last week with. If you haven't heard of Escape the Readathon, it is a readathon hosted by Books with Lexi. I'm going to include her link in my description. You should check her page out because she is a fantastic contributor to BookTube, so you should definitely go see what she's up to. I'll be checking up with you all as this week goes on and let you know what I'm thinking. I think if you're going into Slewfoot looking for a typical horror story, you're not going to find it. You're going to be horribly disappointed. However, there are many things that Brom did very well when writing this book. One was that he did a great job representing the Puritan culture. He did a good job describing how Agatha became a witch. And he also did a great job giving life to his life and personality to his characters, particularly the woodland creatures who reminded me of a bunch of little minions. And I absolutely loved that for them. And I think there were some things that were scarier necessarily than Samson in the book becoming a demon and eventually the devil. One being that the conditions of Puritan life in the 1600s were abhorrent, especially towards women. And I feel like in the story with Agatha being betrothed to Edward, who she hadn't met yet, Edward then dies, and because Edward owes his brother some money, that debt falls onto Agatha, and William treats her badly, and I would even say there are some trigger warnings as far as abuse in that relationship. So if you are sensitive to that kind of thing, this may not be the book for you. But aside from that, I think this book was really well written. It's much more literary than it is horror. And I think the historical account of things was written very well. The scary elements are there. They're just few and maybe a little further in between. I gave the book 3.5 stars out of 5. So after spending a couple of days in historical horror land, I have decided to take a little trip down Dark Academia Lane. The next book I'm going to be reading is called The Ravens. It's written by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page. Hey y'all, I'm back to give you all a synopsis about the book The Raven that I'm about 12 chapters deep into right now. It was released on November 3rd, 2020. It's got about 400 pages, and the setting is Westerly College in Savannah, Georgia, so it's a good old southern school. Kappa Rho Nu, also known as the Ravens, is a sorority of real witches. They're also bold, they're beautiful, powerful, smart. They're really anything that you could look for in a girl. Guys want to be with them and girls want to be them. There's one sorority member named Scarlet Winter, and she's a legacy Raven, which means that her mom and her sister both were in the sorority before her, and they were both serving as president during part of their tenure there. And Scarlet is determined that she is going to serve as president as well, so that's her goal. But there is something that is threatening to get in the way. She has a secret, someone has found it out, and we really don't know if this person is going to succeed in getting in Scarlet's way. There's another character named Vivi Devereaux who really had no idea that she was even a witch before she showed up and got a bid to pledge to the sorority. She really has no idea what being a witch entails, but she is eager to learn as much as she can and to fit in. But there's one person standing in her way, and that is Scarlet Winter. Scarlet just doesn't think that Vivi has what it takes to make it in the sorority. But the bad news is there is an evil that is a force that has risen up on campus, and the girls are going to have to throw their rivalry to the side long enough to save their sorority sisters. And the question is, can they do it before this being comes along to destroy them all? So that's what I'm going to find out in the next couple of days. Like I said, I'm really enjoying this book so far. So we'll see if it continues to go along so strongly. Hey y'all, I just finished reading The Ravens, which reminded me of pretty much any YA witch story that came out of the early 2000s, which was nostalgic and a little bit reminiscent for me. So I did somewhat enjoy that factor of the book. I think it was fine for its intended audience of YA. It was written really well for that audience. And the story started out slowly. It was a bit of a slow burn for me. And it started to get really spicy and good. Not spicy as in romantic good, but spicy as far as good. About halfway through the story. And the characters, for me, felt a little bit interchangeable. I wish there was a little bit more character development. And I think Vivi and Scarlet both stood out because they're main characters, first of all, but also because Vivi shows up at college without knowing that she's a witch and finds that out the day before she pledges to a sorority of witches. And that really was what stood out for me. I thought the logic in the book was good. It had a magic system that fit into the story and made sense. I didn't really feel like this book was great. I felt like it read well, and I gave it a 3.25 out of 5 stars. Oh, and before I forget, next up is The Carroll Hunt by Darcy Coates. So The Carroll Hunt is everything that I have looked for in a haunted house story and in a Darcy Coates story. Darcy Coates is one of my favorite horror writers. This book has not disappointed me at all. In fact, I'm still kind of pondering, but I think I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 stars. The story was fast-paced. I'd recommend listening to the audiobook. If you are an immersive reader like I am, I read both the physical book and the audiobook, and I thought the audio was truly a wonderful addition to this story. This book is creepy, and creepy as all get out. I was actually scared a couple of times myself and really just into it. So if you're a fan of haunted house stories, being locked up in a haunted house, if you're a fan of being creeped out by a book, I would highly recommend Darcy Coates' The Carroll Hunt. Up next for me is Everland by Wendy Spinelli. I hear this is a really good retelling of Peter Pan. Captain Hook is an actual captain in the German army. That's about as much as I know about this story. I'll catch you up on how I feel about it a little bit later.
2,000 years later.
You think you know the story of Peter Pan? Well, forget what you think you know, because the only way to survive in Everland is to grow up. London has been destroyed by war and by disease, and the children are the only ones who have survived, including Mikey Darling, Joanna Darling, and Gwen Darling. They scavenge at night and avoid the marauders by day. The Marauders are the German army who are led by Captain Hans Otto Oswald Kirchner, also known as Captain Hook. Captain Hook is looking for a cure for this virus among the survivors, snatching children from the streets for experimentation, when a young man named Pete, his lost boys, and a sharpshooter named Bella set out to save the kids. Will they be able to outsmart Captain Hook? You'll have to read to find out. I really enjoyed the story. I thought it was a quick read and a very original retelling of Peter Pan. So I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I would highly recommend this if you enjoy retellings and young adult fantasy. This is my reading for the week and for the month. I don't have time to complete any more books for Lexi's Escape the Readathon. Again, I'm going to put her information in the description. Please go check out her channel. I'm going to start a new vlog tomorrow for another readathon, which you'll hear more about then. Thanks for watching.